So I could tell you all the successful things and I could tell you about how my life is all together. I got two wonderful kids. I have a wife. We've been married together for a very long time, surprisingly. Um, you know, and I'm making all this money and, you know, um, my academic career, I'm becoming a sort of stellar, well-known person, like all this kind of nonsense. Truth is that's not how we all feel. And that's not my day-to-day experience in my head. And that just simply not the truth in terms of how we all process things and think about things every day. I feel like I am not, I don't feel like I'm in the right spot. I feel restless, right? Like kind of like a rolling stone. Um, there's no moss growing on any of this rolling stone. I feel like I couldn't put things together. I feel that this reciprocity project is a giant failure. It's not making any money. Um, I feel that, you know, other aspects of my life just don't really make any sense. That um, I, I'm unable to be a good dad sometimes. Like all of these real emotions that we all experience and we all go through. And I think we have this preponderance in much of popular culture. We have one or two things. So I have this view that is told and discussed. That's the social media story that you see. And it's the, um, you know, it's the boob implant. It's the, it's the beautiful faces. It's the wonderful vacations. It's all of those particular things. And, on the guys, it's, steroids and all of those kind of things that are just very enhanced. Um, or we tell the story that is not real, right? The wonderful pictures, all that kind of stuff. And then on the other side, we have this very stark contrast that if it's not this sort of fairy tale life that is dreamt up, that never existed in the first, that everybody else is toxic. It's not working out. It's the problem, all of those particular things. But in reality, actually, the real life is this kind of mix of all of these things that are going on. And there's no one way or the other. In fact, most of our life is just pretty ordinary and mundane. Most of our life is repeating the same thing every single day and trying to figure out how to lump ourselves while we actually do that. The sort of repetition that we go through that is very mundane. And even, the sort of peaks and highs, I do like my weekend, right? Like I actually like hanging out and doing things with my family. I like hanging out with friends that I have. I like doing the odd adventure. I like going and, having a nice dinner or something. I actually like those things. And yet, on the day to day, those repeat, right? And they're the same thing every single day or every single week. So our job is not to necessarily make these sort of sensational views of the world that we live in or come up with all these crazy stories that, we're always better. But it's the fact of living within what we already have and being happy with what we already have and getting joy from what we already have at any given moment. There was somebody that I talked to years ago. She's a really, really wise person. And she told me that, for a long time she was working out and trying to get fit because to improve. But then, she finally realized, or she finally told me, it was like, actually, that was completely wrong. It wasn't about improving, but it was living a better life at the given moment to make sure that that wasn't going to disappear. That the life that you're living can be quite fleeting, and we all experience. And we have this sort of quote unquote upward growth until we're 20. And then after that, then it's the rest of life. It's about everything freaking falling apart, right? A friend of mine has this sort of idea that, yeah, you experience catastrophic body failure at 40, right? Like those moments, everything just starts falling apart. But it's really, think about it. That's all of life. That, realistically, if you go back to the days, we should have lived past 30 by now, right? And how do we do that is we learn how to live life in a healthier and happier way. And it's this repeated story of doing it, right? That there is a finite nature to who we are, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we are infinite. So for me, how do I make sure that I am infinite? I make sure to spread as much love as I possibly can, and realize that could be taken out of context. But the story, like oh gosh, the Bane. Anyways, it could be taken out of context. My thing is, all right, I am going to be as much of a positive change maker in my life and the surrounding people that I know. And this is where I'm taking it to the extreme, because I'm doing this whole reciprocity project, is taking it to the vast extreme that I possibly can. That I'm going to try to spread this as much as possible, because we have access to digital networks today that we didn't have access to 10, 15 years ago, that other people might need this message that might sort of transform them. And I think about all of these kind of things that we go through, right? The message that we often hear in the sort of pop culture message now is that the world's falling apart. If it's not the sort of fairy tale story, and if it's not this fairy tale story that we have, then, the rest of the world's falling apart and it's their problem. It's a toxic culture, all that kind of stuff. In reality, it's just life, right? Like we have politics, we have, nonsense things that people do that are very short-sighted, or that they're really just thinking about themselves, protect themselves. And why do they actually do that? They do that because they have, inner insecurities. They're hurt somehow, experiences that they had in various different lives. Genetically, sometimes people are, in probably actually a huge part, and a strong believer in genetics now, that they have a preponderance to not see the world in a positive way, or to have a sort of selfish personality, right? But at the same time, the rest of us live in this world where those people exist. And so how do we do this, right? I know that those people are never going to listen to this because it makes no sense. It's completely outside of their domain. But I can walk you through and encourage you on a day-to-day of saying, you know what, life's going to be okay. It's a great world we live in. Our world, despite the fact that stories that are sold, that there's toxic, or, you don't live in a fairy tale life. I want you to think about 100 years ago, what life was like. It was a lot more harder. In fact, the world across the board, most of us would have been dead by the time that they're 40, 50 years old. Even in the most wealthiest countries of the world, and even when you had everything that was going for you, the world was repeatedly going through major wars where lots of people were dying. Lots of people were dying. That the, discrimination and the sort of blame, right out, very much real discrimination, where certain people were very directly suppressed, and couldn't get ahead. That was miles ahead of where we actually are right now, like really strongly pronounced. And so, yes, yeah, the world is sometimes dysfunctional today. Um, and you kind of go and like uh, things could be a lot better, but at the same day, and the same thing is that if I could just spread a message that you can be okay, that we all experience the mundanity of life. We all get frustrated with this and various different stages of the life that we're going to go into. But then on top of it, all of us feel like we haven't done enough, feel like there is so much more we can do, feel like we're not meeting up to expectations that we actually have. All of us experience that. And we all go through that in different ways and process that in different ways. Um, and I just want to tell you that you're totally normal to experience those things. When you experience those things, try not to internalize it as much. Just let go just a little bit. I know, at least for me, that's hard to do. Letting go just a little bit of those negative emotions, super hard to do, but just letting go a little bit does help. And if you do that, maybe this is the first time you hear this message and can't do it, right? That's okay, right? But if you listen to a bug in your ear of just a little bit of positive feedback, a little bit of you can do this, a little bit you're doing fine, and you hear that day in and day out for years and years and years, something changes. It really does. And I just want to be there for you to listen to this. And so you can realize that, yeah, we all experience that. That's totally fine. And just take that step forward. Love who you are just a little bit more, and going. The world's actually spectacular today. It's not the world that you see on social media, not the world that you often see and think about in your head, but it is spectacular, and we could do a lot. Let's get at her. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day.